social communication, their social milieu, they're able to kind of manipulate it. Whereas boys seem to be more egocentric. I'm going to go for what I want. Let's lead the way. Surely sometimes it must be quite hard to draw the line between normal and pathological behavior, because some defiance is normal for teenagers. Sometimes people just grow out of that sort of defiant, aggressive behavior. Yes. So, I mean, most of us...
So the retard atheist Dr. Frazier, all psychologists are retard atheists. He thinks I'm a psychopath. The honestly doesn't know what a random number is. Have you ever seen Frazier? Frazier is a dipshit. Okay, Frazier is a retard. Psychologists have the lowest IQ of all college majors. Frazier is a retard, obviously.
It's my Bible. The Big Book of Barbecue by Jeff Philbrook. He's a Texan. Yeah, of course all Texans think they invented barbecue. Arrogant bastards. Well, maybe we could take in a Seahawk game sometime. Frazier hates us, or it'd just be us. And Frazier warned me about you.
Okay, so the doesn't know what a random number is. Okay, imagine lottery balls, okay? Picture lottery balls. Now, if the lottery balls come up 2, 4, 6, 8, Frazier says, that's not random, I see a pattern. So we're going to pick a line number out of the Bible. Random.org. 25200. Frazier is in denial. He's a retard atheist. A heathen atheist. And I have to use sharper and sharper knives with Frazier because he's such a dumb fuck. Frazier is a retard. I use as sharp knives as I can, and I still cannot beat any sense into the. Samuel also said to Saul, the Lord sent me to anoint thee to be king over his people, over Israel. Now therefore hearken thou unto the voice of the words of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, I remember that which Amalek did to Israel, how he laid wait for him in the way when he came up from Egypt. Now go smite Amalek, and utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not, but slay both man and woman, infant and suckling, ox and sheep, camel and ass. And Saul gathered the people together and numbered them in Telium, 200,000 footmen and 10,000 men of Judah. And Saul came to the city of Amalek and laid in wait in the valley. And Saul said unto the Kenites, Go, depart, get ye down from among the Amalekites, lest I destroy you with them. For ye shewed kindness to all the children of Israel when they came out of Egypt. So the Kenites departed from among the Amalekites. And Saul smote the Amalekites. It's evolution. The loves evolution, and then he criticizes war and God. God killed the Native Americans. It's evolution. The X loves evolution and then acts indignant. You love evolution. So,
It's Rita Las Vegas. Crawl, taste, vote. Visit our featured locations or join our pub crawl and vote for this summer's best margarita. Click through to RSVP and vote, and your audio continues uninterrupted. Be more fearful. So more typical behavior. You find that there's kind of this reciprocal, this kind of back and forth mechanism where child is defiant, parent is defiant back, child ups the ante, parent ups the ante, and at some point the parent, if you think about the situation where you're in a supermarket and your child is having a tantrum and everybody's looking at you and you feel the judgment of everyone, what are you going to do? And at some point you might back down, right? Because you don't want to create a big scene in the supermarket. And so that's going to teach the child, in certain contexts, I could maybe get what I want if I just up the ante just that little bit more. And they might go even further. So is that normal for you?
Honestly doesn't know what a random number is. Imagine lottery balls in a ping pong ball machine, lottery balls, okay? I'm pretty sure you can comprehend what a lottery ball random number is, okay? Because I'm having difficulty communicate. We're having a failure to communicate. Lottery ping pong balls, Nigger. What is your fucking problem? 68908. The holy place, prophecy against the Lord of Israel, and say to the land of Israel, thus saith the Lord, behold, I am against thee. I will draw forth my sword out of its sheath, and I will cut off from thee the righteous and the wicked. Seeing then that I cut off from thee the righteous and the wicked, therefore shall my sword go forth out of its sheath against all flesh from the south to the north, that all flesh may know that the Lord hath drawn forth my sword out of its sheath, it shall not return any more. Sigh therefore, son of man, with the breaking of thy loins, and with the bitterness sigh before their eyes. And it shall be when they say unto thee, wherefore sighest thou? And thou shalt answer, for the tidings, because it cometh, and every heart shall melt, and all hands shall be feeble, and every spirit shall faint, and all knees shall be weak as water. Behold, it cometh, and shall be brought to pass, saith the Lord God. Again the word of the Lord came to me, saying, Son of man, prophesy, and say, thus saith the Lord, I say a sword is sharpened, and also furbished. Is a sharpened to make a sore slaughter, it's furbished that it may glitter. Should we then make mirth? It contemneth the rod of my son as every tree. Yeah, the doctor does eugenics, and he gives me meds that give me headaches and make no fluid, make me sterile. So the nigger has hell to pay for that. Don't worry, God's perfectly just. He can take it out on your offspring. God doesn't follow any laws. He just fucking is savage. So does the cannot understand what a random number is? Do you want a different one? How about this one? Okay. The like, that's hacking. You hacked all those websites. The like, seven 77291. Only what do ye more than others? Do not even the publicans so? Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. Take heed that ye do not your alms before men to be seen of them, otherwise ye have no reward of your Father which is in heaven. Therefore when doest thine alms, do not sound the trumpet before thee, as the hypocrite do in the synagogue and in the streets, that they may have glory of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But when thou doest alms, let not thy left hand know what thy right hand doeth, that thine alms may be in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret himself shall reward thee openly. And when thou prayest, thou shalt not be as the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and in the corner of the streets, that they may be seen of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. The cannot understand what a random number is. That's hacking. Those aren't random. I see a pattern, 2, 4, 6, 8. It's not random.
Conclusions we should draw from what we've been talking about how we regard defiance, and whether outright defiance is always the best course of action, or maybe it's better to be more subtle. Lewis, I wondered what you thought. Well, it's obviously conflict.
You're obviously in defiance. I am with God. I am fucking Moses. What the fuck is your problem, you fucking You're being defiant. Fucking, don't you understand, you goddamn retard? What the hell is your problem? We have a failure to communicate. The doesn't know what a random number is. So the people rebelled against Moses. This is rebelling against God.
It's Rita Las Vegas. Crawl, taste, vote. Visit our featured locations or join our pub crawl and vote for this summer's best margarita. Click through to RSVP and vote, and your audio continues uninterrupted.
And not talk about things in terms of what they're going to get out of it. Because that's a sign. If they're thinking in an egocentric manner about what it's going to yield for them, then that's a sign that they're only looking out for number one. That's a very...
Random fucking number. Random fucking number. Random number. One 3759. Children of Israel and the stranger that sojourned among them, seeing all the people were in ignorance. And if any soul sin through ignorance, then it shall bring a she-goat of the first year for a sin offering. And the priest shall make atonement for the soul that sinneth ignorantly, and he sinneth by ignorance before the Lord, to make an atonement for him, and it shall be forgiven him. And shall have one law for him that sinneth through ignorance, both for him that is born among the children of Israel, and for the stranger that sojourn among them. But the soul that doth aught presumptuously, whether he be born in the land or a stranger, the same reproacheth the Lord, and that soul shall be cut off from among his people, because he despiseth the word of the Lord, and hath broken his commandment. That soul shall utterly be cut off, and his iniquity shall be upon him. How hard is it to understand? Fucking lottery balls. You understand? I get these numbers are lottery balls, okay? God controls random numbers.
It's a lob, short, and Arthur bounces the ball out of the court, and he wins the match.
The crowd been rooting to Ashe the entire match, and he is delighted. So too is Arthur Ashe's friend and agent, the legendary sports promoter, Donald Dale, who's been watching with his wife, Carol.
before he shakes hands, he turns to Caroline, the crowd, and he goes like this with his fist. He's so excited, he's just one raise right in the air with a closed fist, and he waves at us like that. And of course, the NBC thinks it's the Black Power salute, which is ridiculous. But he's just waving to us because he's excited and he's just won the tournament.
Arthur Ashe had won it against all the odds, at the same time becoming the first black man ever to win the title. Jimmy Connors was number 1 in the world in 1975 and the reigning Wimbledon champion. No one had thought that Ashe could beat him.
It was really a remarkable upset because he was an underdog 16-1, and Arthur...
God said sports are homo. Tackle a horse. And random number. Google random number. Hot bits. Genuine random numbers from Fermilab. We're going to take hot bits. Hot bits internet resource brings genuine random numbers generated by a process radioactive Geiger counter. Okay. We're going to take... Okay. Seven two oh 720. 72070. 72070. Counselors and sheriffs, all the rulers of the provinces, to come to the dedication of the image which Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Then the princes and governors and captains and judges and treasurers and counselors and sheriffs and all the rulers of the provinces were gathered together unto the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up, and they stood before the image Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then a herald cried aloud, To you it is commanded, O people, nations, languages, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, all kind of music, ye fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Who falleth not down in worship shall be the same hour cast in the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore at that time, when all the people heard the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, all kinds of music, all the people in the nations and languages fell down and worshipped the gold image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Sackbut.
Not I've been doing anything else at all. I haven't done anything else that I did later. Arthur later won a tennis scholarship to the University of California, and in the 60s became the first black player to be selected for the US Davis Cup team. It was there he met Donald Dell, who captained the team for 2 years. Ashe went on to win both the US and the Australian Open. By 1975, when he met Jimmy Connors in that iconic Wimbledon final, he was 31. Cool, controlled, but already some thought too old to beat the young, brash 22-year-old. The night before the match, Arthur and Donald Dell had dinner together and discussed how he could beat Connors.
Connors was a very, very good competitor.
He was number 1 in the world at that time.
He was the longest ranked number 1 player on the ATP computer for many years. And the next morning, I got up and went downstairs, and I did this a lot in big matches for Arthur. And so I wrote on the back of an envelope, I said, Dear Lieutenant. When I wanted to get his attention, I would call him Lieutenant, because when he was on the Davis Cup team, he was a lieutenant in the Army. And that was sort of our code. If I said Lieutenant, that meant, damn it, pay attention. I wanted to really talk to him. So I wrote him a note and said, Dear Lieutenant, here are the 4 or 5 things we talked about last night. Just some thoughts. Number 1, make sure you get your first serve in and try to serve to his backhand as best you can. Connors was left-handed. So number 2, his biggest weakness is a low forehand, so keep the ball.
The nigger thinks that I control the random numbers. Random number. There's a pseudo-random number. God can do pseudo. Generate random number. Already never used this site before. 23173. Two, 3, 1, 7, 3. What is this that ye say unto me? What aileth thee? And the children of Dan said unto him, Let not thy voice be heard among us, lest angry fellows run upon thee, and thou lose thy life with the lives of thy household. And the children of Dan went their way, and when Micah was that they were too strong for him, he turned and went back into his house. And they took the things which Micah had made, and the priest which he had, and came in unto Ashe, unto a people that were at quiet and secure, and they smote them with the edge of the sword, and burnt the city with fire. And there was no deliverer, because it was far from Zidon, and they had no business with any man, and it was in the valley that lieth by Beth Rehob. And they built a city and dwelt therein, and they called the name of the city Dan. This is Lieutenant Dan in Laos, and their father was born in Israel. Howbeit the name of the city was Laish at the first. And the children of Dan set up a graven image. Jonathan, son of Gershom, son of Manasseh, he and his son were priests to the tribe of Dan until the day of the captivity of the land. Why don't you understand it's God? How hard can it be?
It's Rita Las Vegas. Crawl, taste, vote. Visit our featured locations or join our pub crawl and vote for this summer's best margarita. Click through to RSVP and vote, and your audio continues uninterrupted.
I'm David Green in Peoria, Illinois, for our election series, The View from Here. Explore issues on the ground level. We're stopped in a community that's confronting the question of whether the political system in the United States is broken.
And meet people from across the country.
The revolution is happening. It was a quiet revolution. It started out, and that's why there was no big bang. It's just
To understand the voices behind the votes, listen every day. Smart political coverage on air, online, and on the go at KNPR.org and NPR One. This is News 88.9 KNPR and KNPR HD1 Las Vegas, 90.3 KSGU St. George, 91.7 KLNR Panaca, and KTPH Tonopah, 88.7 KWPR Wingate, and 89.3 KLKR Elko. From the Donald W. Rouse Broadcast Center on the campus of the College of Southern Nevada. It's 12 midnight.
Good morning from the BBC World Service. This is Cooper Fuzzy, and Lawrence Connor. After 5 years trying to face the race is over. The Juno satellite is now in orbit around Jupiter, and scientists at NASA could not be more excited.
Celebrating, a day to celebrate for South African writer and filmmaker who's won this year's Kane Prize for African Writing, Lududu Malingani.
I feel very excited, not only I think about the win, but also about what this means for my own writing. And as we wait for a crucial report about the British involvement in the 2003 Iraq War to be published, the question in many people's minds, could the former British Prime Minister Tony Blair be investigated by the ICC? If we were to investigate war crimes, it could lead us to anybody, or any group of persons. That's all after latest news.
This is the BBC News. Hello, I'm Jonathan Izard. NASA has confirmed that the Juno spacecraft has entered into orbit around Jupiter after a 5-year journey from Earth. Scientists burst into applause when a signal sent back across 800 million kilometers of space confirmed the spacecraft's engine had fired for 35 minutes. The $1.1 billion probe will circle Jupiter for 20 months. Our science correspondent Rebecca Morrell, who was at NASA's Mission Control in Pasadena, explains what Juno is expected to achieve. British Conservative MPs are holding their first ballot in the party's leadership election. 5 candidates are vying to succeed the Prime Minister David Cameron, who resigned after losing last month's referendum on Britain's membership of the EU. One will be eliminated and others may drop out. The frontrunner is the Home Secretary Theresa May. Here's our political correspondent Tom Bateman. Theresa May is understood to have repeated her view that the status of EU nationals currently in Britain would form part of negotiations ahead of Britain's withdrawal. The issue is already creating a fault line between the leadership candidates. Mrs May's rivals, Michael Gove and Andrea Leadsom, have said EU citizens should have their right to stay in the UK protected. The momentum appears to remain with Theresa May. However, once the field is whittled down to the final 2, it will be for the membership of around 150,000 Conservatives to choose the winner. Ilya is still counting me.
66726. Six, 7, 2, 6. Prison garments, and he did continually eat bread before him all the days of his life. And for his diet there was a continual diet given him of the king of Babylon every day, a portion until the day of his death, all the days of his life. Lamentation of Jeremiah. How doth the city sit solitary that was full of people? How is she become as a widow, she that was great among the nations and princess among the provinces? How is she become tributary? She weepeth sore in the night, and her tears are on her cheeks. Among all her lovers she hath none to comfort her. All her friends have dealt treacherously with her, they have become her enemies. Judah is gone into captivity because of affliction and because of great servitude. She dwelleth among the heathen, she findeth no rest, and all her persecutors overtook her between the straits. The ways of Zion do mourn, because none come to the solemn feast. All her gates are desolate, her priests sigh, her virgins are afflicted, and she is in bitterness.
Of $67 billion. A report called Europe's Dark Cloud said plants in Poland were the worst polluters, accounting for nearly 6,000 early deaths a year, mostly in neighbouring countries. The campaign group Amnesty International has criticised the 5-year prison sentence handed down for a South Korean trade union leader. A court in Seoul jailed Han Sang-yeon on Monday after he was found guilty of organising a protest against labour reforms last November. With more on the protest, here's our correspondent in Seoul, Steve Evans. The demonstration was mostly peaceful, but violence erupted when some protesters fought police. The court decided that Mr. Han, as one of the union leaders behind the overall protest, should bear responsibility for the resulting injuries to 76 police officers and damage to 43 buses. Amnesty said the 5-year sentence was both unjust and shameful. It was evidence, it said, of an increasingly ruthless crackdown
on peaceful dissent. The South African writer and filmmaker Dudu Malungani has won the 2016 Ken Prize for African Writing, one of the most prestigious prizes for African authors. The $13,000 prize awarded at Oxford University includes the offer of a writer's residency at Georgetown University in Washington. And
Okay,
BBC World
black people are typically ignorant. When white people want to make fun of somebody as ignorant, they call them black. and I'm just doing what they do, okay?
In orbit around Jupiter, and it's called Juno. You may well be one of the thousands of people tweeting about Juno on the hashtag Juno. And Scott Bolton is also talking about this. He's the leader of the NASA team behind the successful mission. When it all came together, he said, "You're the best team ever. We just did the hardest thing that NASA has ever done."
Right, also insights coming up into the Chilcot inquiry into the origins of Britain's involvement in the Iraq War. We hear from the winner of the Kane Prize for African Literature, and 20 years since Dolly the sheep, first mammal to have been cloned from an adult cell. We look back at that extraordinary scientific achievement. All coming up in half an hour.
Let's talk about NASA's ambitious mission to send a probe to the planet Jupiter. The Juno spacecraft has travelled an epic 5 years and nearly 3 billion kilometres to get there. And in the last 2 hours, this.
Welcome to Jupiter, or as the little craft says on its Twitter feed, I am
He's going to examine Jupiter. It's going to orbit around the largest planet in our solar system. Your pause there, you heard, was from the delighted and, I think, relieved scientists at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena. Their goal, you may remember, was what they were calling Jupiter orbital insertion. This craft had been going at 250,000 kilometers an hour. It's been doing it for 5 years, and it had to brake. It was all about the engine, the thrust.
Yeah,
all
I told somebody
about
stupid
it.
here, what?
Ian Coxill, chief
Are you
engineer.
racist? Yes, you are. Why?
The company and the man who were behind the design and the creation of the main engine. Utterly vital to tonight's mission. Ian, how did you follow the events?
Hi, good morning. Yes, well, very eagerly on NASA TV. So, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and turning on NASA TV to see how our engine was doing was utterly thrilling. And I can say on behalf of all the Westcott team here, we're so delighted with what a massive success this is.
I'm so delighted to talk to you because yesterday we were building up to it and we were saying this is all about the kind of the thrust, and it all goes into this kind of handbrake turn that the craft has to do. It had to slow itself down, didn't it, from this almost inconceivable speed that it's going at. Tell us about, well, is it an engine? Is that the right way to call it? Tell us about the engine.
Well, it is an engine. It of course, is a rocket engine, and it burns liquid propellants in there, which ejects hot gases out the back end of the engine, which cause an equal and opposite reaction on the spacecraft, which allows it to brake into the correct orbit.
It's rocket science, isn't it?
It certainly is.
I'm not sure how often people make that joke, or if you catch yourself at your lab going, oh, it's not rocket science, oh, hang on. No, it is.
You'll be surprised.
Yeah, I'm sure. The engine still has more to do, doesn't it? I mean, this isn't sort of game over, it has to carry on.
That's correct. We've done the most critical part of the manoeuvre to get it into Jupiter orbit, but now we're in a 53-day orbit. To get most science out of the mission, he's been a 14-day orbit, so mid-October there'll be a second burn now in Jupiter, and that will put it into the correct orbit for doing the majority of the science experiments.
That's fascinating. And are you going to be following the science experiments as well?
Of course, it's one of those things when you get associated with a mission like this that, of course, the bit you work on is what's of interest to you. But the sort of general mission as well, what he's finding out about Jupiter, trying to peel back the surface to understand what's in its core. I think everyone here at Westcott are all very interested to find out what the scientists will discover.
I'm very interested to hear you say that, because I remember somebody talking to us on the programme earlier about the history of the original space programme, and said it was the first human programme that was so large that there was no one person that knew everything about the entire project. You know, you had to delegate. But in this, presumably working on the engine has got you closer to the scientists and very involved in the project.
It's certainly got us very involved in the project. I would say not so much on the science side, but certainly very deeply involved on the engineering side. And that's why certainly engineers are very keen to learn about the science in all the kind of media outlets which are currently covering the story.
What do you do next? Having sent an engine all that time, what next? Nowhere to go for you, surely?
Well, yes. We've been to Mars twice. We've been to Mercury on previous missions. We've even been to an asteroid, and now we're at Jupiter. So Probably our next mission is going to be to our nearest body, the moon. And following on from that, we're hoping to go back to Mars, actually, to one of the moons of Mars.
Fantastic answer. Thank you. We're going back to Mars, actually. Ian Coxall, Dr. Ian Coxall, many thanks indeed. Chief Engineer and the man behind the success.
I think this can do it. Can you give us random? Hello? What? No. Okay, I don't know what it is. Random number generation. Random number, set up, generate random number. One random number. Range. 1. Hello? Okay, ready. Begin. 62757. Six, 2, 7, 5, 7. Gather up thy wares out of the land, O inhabitant of the fortress. For thus saith the Lord, Behold, I will sling out the inhabitants of the land at this once, and will distress them that they may find it so. Woe is me for my hurt, my wound is grievous. But I said, Truly, this is a grief, I must bear it. My tabernacle is spoiled, all my cords are broken, my children are gone forth of me, and they are not. There is none to stretch forth my tent any more, and to set up my curtains. For the pastors are become brutish, and have not sought the Lord, therefore they shall not prosper, and all their flocks shall be scattered. Behold, the noise of the brute is come, and a great commotion out of the north country, to make the city of Judah desolate, a den of dragons. Sling out.
Those who are in the militia, probably not the head, but part of the commanders, some of the commanders, and we've also tried heads of state. So it really depends on the responsibility, the individual criminal responsibility that the person bears. And this is what we go for. The evidence will lead us to that person, as I said, regardless of official capacity, who bears the greatest responsibility for the crimes. Insights there from Frazier and Frazier, who is Chief Prosecutor at the ICC. More on the Chilcot inquiry tomorrow here on YouTube.
Time for the business now. At 1:15. Foreign trading companies are reviewing their investments, we're told, in Bangladesh's huge and important garment industry. That's following the deadly Islamist attack on a cafe in the capital, Dhaka, on Friday. Marie Keeler from our business desk. And can you tell us more? Who's saying this?
Yes, well, Fast Retailing, who Uniqlo, the Japanese clothing brand, have already said that they've suspended all but critical travel to Bangladesh, and they've even told their staff to stay indoors for the time being. They're one of a number of companies that have made such statements. Sweden's H&M are saying that they will monitor the security situation before deciding whether to relocate to safer countries. And this all comes down to the fact you have many clothing factories working.
Hello? So I'm putting a
It's Rita Las Vegas. Crawl, taste, vote. Visit our featured locations or join our pub crawl and vote for this summer's best margarita. Click through to RSVP and vote, and your audio continues uninterrupted. BC World Service in the U.S. is made possible by American Public Media, producer and distributor of award-winning public radio content. Each week, the Dinner Party Download podcast handpicks the best of what's happening in movies, music, books, and food. Then hosts Rico Galliano and Brendan Francis Noonan whip it into a fast, funny, hour-long show. You can find it on iTunes or your favorite podcast app. You can get your news fix as soon as you wake up. Tune into the latest on the economy. You're just standing around looking at the wreck when somebody ought to be moving the wreck off the highway so the economic traffic can proceed. So what's happening in the arts? The materials that are challenged and banned are the books that say something about the human condition. Wake up to the world with Morning Edition from NPR News. Stay with us for Morning Edition this morning, 5 to 9 on News 88.9 KNPR. You're listening to the BBC World Service. I'm Ronan Peace, and on Discovery in a minute, I'll be seeing what happens to our plastic waste if it gets washed out to sea. The problem may start on a UK beach, but it could end up anywhere. We're finding it in and amongst Arctic sea ice. We're finding it in the deep sea, thousands of meters beneath the sea surface. We've found microscopic fragments of plastic on beaches in every continent worldwide. What's known and what's been learned about plastic rubbish on Discovery after the news. BBC News with Jonathan Izard. A space probe that spent 5 years travelling to Jupiter has gone into orbit around the biggest planet in the solar system. NASA scientists burst into applause when a signal sent back across 800 million kilometres of space confirmed that the spacecraft's engine had slowed it down enough to be captured by Jupiter's gravity. British Conservative MPs hold their first ballot in the party's leadership election today. 5 candidates are vying to succeed the Prime Minister David Cameron, who resigned after losing last month's referendum on Britain's membership of the European Union. One will be eliminated and others may drop out.
Fire!
Wondershare Filmora is a user-friendly, easy-to-use video editing software.
What? Hey, what is your malfunction? I think I have to stop this screen.
Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 movies with special effects that aged well. And then anything to say before this sentence is carried out? For this list, we're taking a look at overall effects in older movies that managed to impress even to this day. Tell me if I'm right, Frazier. I know I make it big, but where I become like a rich rock star, Marty knows too much about their own destiny, right? Granted, not every film here remains totally convincing on a visual level. Given the limitations of the time, though, these special effects are still highly admirable. Number 10, Starship Troopers. You wouldn't expect a late 90s romp as corny and over-the-top as Starship Troopers to age especially well. Funny how they always want to be friends after they rip your guts out. That's what I deserve. Yet, directed Dr. Paul Verhoeven of RoboCop and Total Recall found a strong balance between prosthetics and computer-generated effects, envisioning a wild 23rd century.
Let's see. Okay, let's go to 28716. And he bowed the heart of all men of Judah, even as the heart of one man, so that they sent this word unto the king, Return thou and all thy servants. So the king returned and came to Jordan, and Judah came to Gilgal, and to go to meet the king, to conduct the king over the Jordan. And Shemiah, the son of Gera, a Benjaminite, which was of Bahurim, hasted and came down with the men of Judah to meet King David. And there were 1,000 men of Benjamin with him, and Ziba the servant. There went over a ferry boat to carry over the king's household and to do what he thought good. And Shemiah, son of Gera, fell down before the king as he was come over Jordan, and said unto the king, Let not my lord impute iniquity unto me, neither do thou remember that which thy servant perversely the day that my lord king went out of Jerusalem. So that's a ferry boat, like Starship Troopers. Beat the hell out of the every day.
It's Rita Las Vegas. Crawl, taste, vote. Visit our featured locations or join our pub crawl and vote for this summer's best margarita. Click through to RSVP and vote, and your audio continues uninterrupted. Who is Professor of Ecotoxicology.
These plastic particles are clearly present in surface waters, and if we dig down to the bottom of the ocean and we take sediments from the bottom of the ocean, we find plastics embedded in them as well. And we know that organisms live in both of these locations. So we do two things. First of all, we collect marine animals from the surface waters and from the sediments, and we bring them back to the laboratory and we find out what might be present in their guts or they can interact. And we're interested to know what happens when the bacteria and the toxic chemicals that might be present in the water are both attracted onto the same surface. And you can see here we've got plates which we're incubating, and they're shaking as they incubate, and that allows the little plastic particles in the bacteria to form and to interact and bind to each other. It models what might happen in the sea when they're being shaken about by waves, and then we'll take the particles out at the end, and we'll measure the bacteria, and we'll see what effect the different chemicals had on.
So the nigger says, you use machine learning to make the lottery balls come up, to pick the lottery balls. I'm sitting here saying, if I could control the lottery balls, why wouldn't I just pick them? You're not real clear on the concept of a random number. The nigger says, you use machine learning to pick the lottery balls. He's not real clear on, if I can control the lottery balls, why do I need machine learning? How about let's pick, oh no, that's not. Six oh 124. For I beheld, and there was no man even among them, and there was no counselor that when I asked of them could answer a word. Behold, they are all vanity, their works are nothing, their molten images are wind and confusion. Behold, my servant whom I uphold, my elect, in whom my soul delighteth. I have put my spirit upon him, and he shall bring forth judgment to the Gentiles. He shall not cry, nor lift up, nor cause his voice to be heard in the street. A bruised reed he shall not break, and a smoking flax he shall not quench. He shall bring forth judgment unto truth. He shall not fail nor be discouraged till he have set judgment in the earth, and the isles shall wait for his law. Thus saith God the Lord, he that created the heavens and stretched them out, and spread forth the earth and that which cometh out of it, and giveth breath unto the people upon it, and spirit unto them that walk therein. I, the Lord, have called thee in righteousness, and will hold thy hand, and will keep thee, and give thee for a covenant of the people, for a light of the Gentiles, to open the blind eyes, to bring out the prisoner from the prison, and them that sit in darkness out of the prison house.
Professionals, and it takes passion and commitment, and it is very hard to remove that debris, and that's why we do, because we need to, because it helps save the resources in the economy, but we really want to stop the problem from happening in the first place.
And interestingly, Dr. Wallace told me the seashore volunteer cleanups help with that prevention work by helping the public to see the scale of the problem. I said this mess seems so big and so deep and so tall, but how big, how deep and how tall? A moment's thought shows how difficult it is even to estimate. But Tony Andrade and a group of experts got together to have a go. The result was a much-discussed paper published in Science last year.
The first time anyone would have tried to estimate how much of the plastics litter or plastic waste that we generate gets into the ocean. We have a fairly good estimate of how much plastic waste we generate. We can look at the municipal solid waste numbers. We can estimate the efficacy of solid waste management in different regions of the world. Now, how much of it gets into the ocean is a total unknown quantity, because nobody could even guess what it was. And this paper, I think, is significant because for the first time, it got an estimate, albeit an approximate estimate, but it's an estimate, a first estimate of how much plastics would be in the oceans.
Their conclusion was that somewhere around 5 to 13 million tons of plastic waste end up in the oceans each year. They even constructed a league table showing the United States coming 20th, despite being the greatest generator of plastic rubbish overall, and China, Indonesia and the Philippines topping the list of offenders. Clearly, total plastic use is only part of the picture. Managing the waste is the other. With care, plastic can be kept from the oceans. On the other hand, Tony Andrade was keen for us not to put too much faith on the detail in this study.
Actually, that paper also mentions my native Sri Lanka, which I believe is an error. I do not think Sri Lanka stands out as that big waste generator. Leaving that data point out, we have to go by the basic solid waste management data that was in the database. We cannot sort of take individual countries and then try to second guess what might be the correct number. So when we use the World Bank numbers in our methodology, those are the numbers that we get. And that is not only because they use more plastics, that often is because the waste management infrastructure might not be adequate to handle the amount of waste that they generate. Whereas in places like in Western Europe or United States or Japan, there's good waste management infrastructure. And even if you generate a little bit more waste and are more wasteful, then most of it is captured before it reaches the stage of litter.
One of the most notorious rubbish hotspots in the ocean is the North Pacific Gyre, a vast patch where circulating currents gather and focus debris from across the Pacific. In the Netherlands, a group called Ocean Cleanup hopes to do just that, gather up the human rubbish and bring it back to shore. At the moment, they're still testing the floating booms needed to fence in the rubbish. This is their leader, Boyan Flat, at the recent launch of the prototype in the North Sea.
I think the BBC will give me a copyright flag. Lovers of sounds and sight, I replied, are, as I can see, fond of fine tones and colors and forms and all the artificial products that are made out of them, but their mind is incapable of seeing or loving absolute beauty. True, he replied. Few are they who are able to attain to the sight of this. Very true. And he who, having a sense of beautiful things, has no sense of absolute beauty, or who, if another lead him to a knowledge of that beauty, is unable to follow, of such a one I ask. Is this what you're talking about, Mr. God? Uh-oh. I hate when that happens.
It's Rita Las Vegas. Crawl, taste, vote. Visit our featured locations or join our pub crawl and vote for this summer's best margarita. Click through to RSVP and vote, and your audio continues uninterrupted.
Better. Coming up in the inquiry after the news. This is the BBC News. Hello, I'm Jonathan Izard. 5 years after leaving Earth, NASA's Juno spacecraft has begun orbiting
delicate instruments to map Jupiter's intense radiation field and what lies below the dense toxic clouds enveloping the gas giant. Our science correspondent Jonathan Amos was at NASA's Mission Control in Pasadena, California.
There was no holding back. The signal of success had the mission team jump out of their chairs and embrace. This was a maneuver fraught with danger. No previous spacecraft has dared pass so close to Jupiter. The intense radiation that surrounds the planet can destroy unprotected electronics. But Juno is built like a tank, with titanium shielding, and its rocket maneuver appeared to go without a hitch. While the radiation dangers have not gone away, the probe can now prepare its instruments to start sensing what lies beneath Jupiter's opaque clouds.
A French parliamentary inquiry into the Islamist attacks on Paris last year has recommended far-reaching reforms to the security and intelligence services. The report says various forces should be merged into a national anti-terrorism agency.